Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for another episode of Hudson County Review Live. I am your host, the Apex Predator, John R. Hydus, and today we're joined again with Hoboken First Ward Councilman Mike DeFusco. Mike, thanks for coming back on.
The man, the myth, the legend, John Hydus. Where's that I had the community thing? Can we have it early this time?
I don't think so. We can't go out of order.
Thanks for having me, though.
It's always a pleasure. So let's talk a little bit about current events, of course. Just on Wednesday, we had that special meeting about the University District for the Stevens Institute of Technology. There's been some concerns, as you know, about the two towers that would be used as student dormitories, and we heard a lengthy presentation, a lot of employees and alumni expressing their opinions. What was your biggest takeaway from that meeting?
For years, the council and the mayor have ironed in their ability to update zoning. Stevens Institute is one of the premier institutions of engineering research in this entire country, and they're in our backyard. So one of our top priorities after the election was to update the zoning on Stevens campus to allow the growing student body to live on campus. They have 140 shuttle buses that are running through our city on a daily basis. They have much needed expansion need for research facilities. And so this isn't a political issue, as I said on the council. This is an issue that we all want to see happen. So working with the mayor and working with Stevens and working with neighborhood interest groups like the Fund for Better Waterfront, we have an ordinance that has gone through a lot of iterations, and I think we're very close to having consensus of the community to move it forward. We have activist council people that have talked about height. We have activist residents that have talked about the preservation of the waterfront. And I think that working with the mayor's Office of Community Development, we have a very good ordinance that we're about to introduce at next Wednesday's meeting. So I'm excited about it, and I'm happy to have led the conversation.
So there seems to be some confusion as far as the actual vote. Obviously, you guys couldn't vote on Wednesday. There's going to be another special meeting next week. So will that be the first reading vote, or will that be the final vote, or how is that going to work the way you understand it?
Of course, the ordinance has fundamentally changed since the first reading. Mm-hmm. So it's being returned to first reading with the updated amendments that have been discussed with the administration and all stakeholders. So the first reading will be on Wednesday, and then the second reading will be 2 weeks after that.
Got it. Okay, simple enough. So obviously it's no secret that you and the Bhalla administration don't get along too well, but one thing that you guys do seem to have reached an agreement on is Court Street, and I know this is something you've talked about for years, and it finally looks like the wheels are in motion. So just tell me why that was a priority and what this means for your constituents in the First Ward.
I'm super excited to talk about Court Street, but I'd like to first reference your first statement. The election is very far behind us, and I think that the relationship that this council has, including myself, with the administration is strong. We've supported 98% of the resolutions and ordinances that the mayor has asked for, and we've reached consensus. We are approaching this from a collaborative environment. We don't see the mayor. He has a second job at a politically connected law firm. We see his two chiefs of staff. We see his communications manager and all of his directors, but he doesn't attend committee meetings. He doesn't take calls from council people, and this is a frustration with us. We want to work with the mayor. We want to work with this entire administration. There will always be another election. That's the politics of it, but we're elected right now in this time and place to represent Hoboken together, and we need to work with the mayor, but he will not work with us. I sit on the council with many people that I ran against in the last election, a freeholder that I ran against in the last election. We're all working together, and we ask the mayor on a weekly basis to join us in a collaborative conversation about Hoboken and about policy. Politics is very far behind us, and the next election is not even on my mind yet. Okay. So about Court Street?
Yes, Court Street.
Love it. So when I was a zoning board member for 5 years, and when I was a community member before that, what I had always heard is, why aren't we doing anything to Court Street? It's our city's most historic alleyway. The Belgian block that paves Court Street actually came as ship ballast, in the 19th century over from Europe, and it was used to pave that street. It was once a street that was filled with small businesses, artists, and now it's fallen into disrepair. Seniors trip on the sidewalk. Folks with disabilities can't get through. And when I first took up an advocacy issue in the First Ward, it was Court Street. And I recall at that time, John, that as soon as I put my name and my voice to advocating for Court Street, Mayor Zimmer at the time and Councilman Bhalla at the time looked at me and they said, "What are you doing? Why are we fighting for Court Street? We have other issues like bonding for parks that never get built, or approving budgets that that are 18% over." And I said, "Well, this is something I ran on. This is something that's important to me." And it was at that moment, John, that I remember them thinking I was going to run for mayor, and they did everything at the time not to see the project through. So I am heartened. I'm excited that the council has supported my push for Court Street, and I'm happy the administration finally sees that Court Street is an important thoroughfare for Hoboken. It's the future of Hoboken.
And so just, could you just let us know, for those that haven't been following that closely, what's the cost here and what's the timetable of this getting done?
So it's a multi-phase project. Right now, we have approved something very simple, sidewalks that are abutting Court Street. They have long been in disrepair, and the council approved a resolution awarding a contract to repair those sidewalks.
Okay.
The second step to this is the council in this year's budget approved funding for a thorough engineering program. And so we're going to go out to bid for that at the first meeting in September. I have the word of the administration that this is going to happen. And then the engineering firm will return with concise plans on how to move forward. We'll look at all funding options, from bonding to county funds to to our capital plan in our city's budget. But I think that as you said at the top of this, that we have found consensus and collaboration on the council and with the mayor to invest in our city's most historic alleyway.
All right. So would you hope that by the spring this is completed in an ideal world?
Ultimately, the allocation of funds comes from the council, but how it gets done is up to the mayor. I hope that the aprons are done by this fall, the sidewalks are done by this fall, and I hope that we have a plan ready for budgeting by the spring, so we can include it into next year's budget and we can find any and all grant opportunities necessary. It's such an important issue, and I'm willing to take it slow, I'm willing to take it fast, but I'm not willing to turn my back on it.
All right, so it's a fairly comprehensive long-term issue. Got it. So speaking of, road repairs, and you mentioned the word disrepair quite a few times. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of residents out there unhappy about the progress on Washington Street.
Sure.
And I know on the council, you've certainly been vocal about your feelings, but for those that just haven't, again, been following terribly closely, could you just give us an update from your perspective what's happening on Washington and what you would like to see done?
The council approved the Washington Street plan almost 3 years ago when I was the chair of the Transportation Committee. We, again, found consensus with then Mayor Zimmer, who wanted to include protected bike lanes along Washington Street. The council decided to work with everybody to make sure that the engineering on that and the traffic circulation was for the best interest of the entire city, not just a small group of folks. And we voted the plan, and it was funded 2 years ago. And religiously, the administration has assured us it will be done by this August. Sure enough, at the last council meeting, after the mayor took credit for Washington Street, he quietly came to the council through his directors and asked for another $500,000 and a 9-month extension on the project. And this is the kind of backwards policy that I think people are frustrated with, right? Everybody wants to see Washington Street done. It will get done. But I don't think that people understand how much government waste, how many politically connected contracts are built into this, right? There's no reason that we should have been 18% over at the Southwest Park. There's no reason that we should have had to extend Washington Street another 9 months. The council is working with the administration, but the administration is not being honest with the council or with residents. And then they declare a victory on Washington Street. This is not the way that policy and progress should be framed.
All right, Mike. So speaking of policy and progress, you're aware that early this week the mayor put out a email and also on social media what he believes are 25 accomplishments of his administration 6 months in. So I'm sure you have some strong feelings about that. I'd like to hear it.
I'm excited for progress, right? And the mayor and the council are two equal bodies.
Sure. Checks and balances.
I come from the private industry where you work together, you collaborate with people, and it's not a one-sided accomplishment. It's teamwork. And every single one of the mayor's items that he declared victory on that involved a council vote are also a council accomplishment because we worked with the mayor to get them there. His executive orders, although well and great, are just ink on paper. He has an executive order for transgender bathrooms, single-use bathrooms, but as you very well know, most, if not all, of the single-use bathrooms in City Hall and our parks, 3 months after that executive order, still haven't been switched over. So an executive order is confusing to me. What does it exactly do? It's a great statement, a great political statement, but it's not an accomplishment until you actually see the changes that it speaks of. I want to see progress in Hoboken. We're not going to stop progress in Hoboken, but I want the mayor to stop issuing press releases and buzzworthy headlines and actually start working with the council and the people of Hoboken to make sure that we are together on these things, that we reach consensus, not political divisions.
Gotcha. All right, so another issue that I think has fallen to the wayside a little bit is that back in June, the council had a discussion about, learning more about the mayor's second job, as you noted earlier, and Corporation Council came back and said, well, you would need a local ethics board for this to really have any teeth, for you guys to really oversee the contracts and the clients that he has. So, the July meeting obviously came and gone, you didn't reintroduce it, and on the summer schedule, of course, there's only one council meeting a month. So I just wanted to see from your perspective, number one, why did you think that was so important? And number two, what do you think the council's initiative is going to be going forward? Will you think a local ethics board is what it's going to be, or how do you think that'll turn out?
Great question. We need to take a couple steps back, right, to the campaign where the mayor promised voters that he would leave his other politically connected law firm if he was elected mayor of Hoboken. And the conflicts are great in New Jersey law firms where, they're, obviously, financially interested in the operations of municipalities. They represent vendors and clients. And in that particular case, when then Councilman Bhalla was with Florio Pertucci Steinhardt Fader, he voted on a contract for New Jersey Transit, of which that law firm represented. He attempted to vote on a contract negotiation with Suez Water until I expressed great concern, and he recused himself from that vote. It was one of the top issues in the last mayoral election.
Sure.
Yet, on a Friday night in February, without any fanfare, we find out through the grapevine that the mayor has accepted another politically connected job. And what's most interesting about this position is it's a no-show job. He's been on the record as saying, I am a full-time mayor, I don't spend any time at the law firm, and I'm being paid $60,000 plus unlimited commissions. That's my definition of a no-show job, so I think all residents, concerned residents, need to ask themselves, what is he being paid for? So the council then took it upon ourselves, not to create a political roadblock, but to simply shed transparency and light on what this job actually meant. We attempted to work directly with the mayor. He wouldn't respond back. We put together a resolution asking 26 very concise questions. He responded with one-word answers, like a true lawyer would. And when we've attempted to understand the full extent of his job, he doesn't respond. So we put forth an ordinance that simply asked the mayor if you're going to, attempted to ordain that if a mayor holds a second job, they need to acknowledge their salary as well as any clients. Mm-hmm. And the Corporation Counsel, Brian Aloya, who is a political contributor to Mayor Bhalla, came out and said he would not enforce it. And we can't order Corporation Counsel to enforce an ordinance, but we can continue to talk about the issue and find a way to shed the daylight on this issue. So right now, we're putting forth another resolution on this next agenda, which asks for the timesheets of the mayor and all his employees within the mayor's office, and I hope they'll comply with this, because we want to work with them to understand. If there's no issue, that's fantastic. But we don't know there isn't an issue until the mayor actually comes clean on what the resources he's using in City Hall are, and if any of them are going towards his second job.
So do you think the local ethics board is completely off the table at this stage?
I can understand why Mayor Bhalla doesn't want to go to the local finance board. He was found to be in violation by that same local finance board, a statewide body that is apolitical, appointed by state figures. That violation was actually had 2 weeks after the mayoral election. I can understand why Mayor Bhalla doesn't want to go in front of courts. He was censured by the New Jersey State Supreme Court. Of course, Mayor Bhalla wants to push for a local ethics board because the mayor appoints that board. That's not the transparency we need. I'm not against a local ethics board so long as it was fair and it didn't become a kangaroo court for the political advantage of politicians. Mayor Zimmer herself wrote a memo to the council many years ago urging the council not to switch to a local ethics board because she herself saw that it was not the best way to enforce ethics violations or ethics complaints, rather the local finance board. So I will continue to push for the best option for transparency in Hoboken, and whatever that is, as long as it's clear, it's concise, and it's fair for everybody, I will support it.
All right. Now, as you know, this isn't a secret to you, Mike, but the mayor and his administration have pushed back on this issue, which has been pushed by several council members, but spearheading it has been yourself and the council president, Ruben Ramos. He said, they don't have any authority to speak on this matter. Ruben Ramos at one point had 3 government jobs. Mike DeFusco has thousands of dollars in local pay-to-play violations. What do you say to that reaction?
Council President Ramos was elected being a school teacher, right? He was elected and he then gave up his position on the city council. So this is political mumbo jumbo. They're political talking points. The voters of Hoboken at one point supported Ruben Ramos because he was a school teacher, and they felt that as a school teacher, he would be a good representative in Trenton. And as a matter of fact, his advocacy in Trenton was for the schools. And so that's the kind of person that you want. In regards to the absurdities of the constant claim that I somehow violated the local pay-to-play ordinance, I've never heard from City Hall in over 8 months that this is an issue. All I hear is from Rob Horowitz, the mayor's spokesperson. I hear it from the taxpayer-funded city spokesperson that somehow I violated a law that I am unaware that has actually been violated. So it's, again, more political talking points to avoid the clear issue that the mayor has violated ethics and has been censured by the New Jersey State Supreme Court as well as the local finance board, that he's broken a campaign promise to the people of Hoboken and is working for a politically connected law firm, and he's increased the size and scope of the mayor's office by 40% without doing anything other than, just sitting in City Hall or not. So it's concerning to me, it's concerning to the entire City Council, and we don't understand why the mayor is so unwilling to work with us on these core issues of good government.
So on the point of the mayor's office expanding, we know there was no deputy chief of staff under Mayor Zimmer, for example, but that did require council approval, and you guys did approve it. So why did you guys let it go, as you continue to monitor it, of course, but you did approve it. So why did you think that was the right move at the time?
That is a phenomenal question. So the the state statute, I should say, permits the office of the mayor to have a confidential aide and a confidential assistant. Two persons working for the mayor. The 1987 local ordinance permitted for a stenographer to also work with the mayor. In the last meeting of the year, December, the 3rd week in December, under the cloak of the holidays and a bruising recent election, the Zimmer administration, working with the incoming Bhalla administration, snuck in in my opinion, a salary ordinance that was completely not transparent. transparent. The council did approve it, and then as soon as we realized that it was approved when the third person was hired, we started asking the questions. And we've been asking the questions now for 8 months, and we haven't made any moves to remove this person because we're trying to understand the entire scope of their responsibility. We want the mayor's office to function successfully. We want the mayor to be a leader for this community. We want the entire city hall to work together collaboratively and cohesively. But the council gave an Office of Constituent Services. The council has provided for additional resources to the mayor. We don't understand why, as a 9-member body, we can't have a resource in our legislative duties, but the mayor has a third person working his office that is often seen at events together with the other two. It just seems a little politically motivated that the mayor would ask for this extra person without coming clean on what the person actually does.
All right. So, obviously, that's something that we'll keep an eye on. Now, look, on a completely different note, something that, again, I think has been a little bit lost because it's not on the ballot till November, but runoff elections, that's something that hasn't been around for years.
Yeah.
The voters will have a chance to decide again. And I just wanted to get your perspective on, if it was up to you, do you think it's better to have runoffs, or do you think it's better to keep the system that currently exists in Hoboken where there's no runoffs?
Maintaining an election environment that does not permit for runoff elections only benefits incumbents that have name recognition and that have the ability to fundraise, including myself. If a young person decides to run against me in the first ward, which I hope they do because that's the only way New Energy and New Ideas is had, I have a benefit built in that I have the experience, I have the platform, I have the fundraising ability to win that election just because I'm the incumbent. And that's not how democracy should work. And if you apply that same thought process to Ravi Bhalla, he won this election with only 32% of the community, right?
Yeah.
He won it with the support of the mayor, and instead of building consensus, bringing people together, making statements that are collaborative and build communities, he divided the electorate. He divided the electorate by playing national politics, calling my colleague on the city council a racist, not standing up for me when I was falsely accused of being a racist in a flyer that was illegally put out in my name. He created a political environment that echoed the disgusting national conversation. And because he was able to bifurcate the vote like that, he was able to win with 32% of the vote. And a mayor or a council person that's only able to win with such a small margin is not able to bring people together, right? So we need to bring back runoff elections because I think young people need a chance to stand up to the political establishment. I want people to stand up to me. I want people to stand up to Ravi Bhalla, and I want to make sure the best ideas, the most passionate people are running for office. And without a runoff, it's just the same old politics. So on November 6th, if we want to see cohesion, community building, collaboration, we need to bring back the runoff election. And the mayor will say, well, it's going to cost a ton of money. No, it's not. It's been shown to show that runoffs cost in the city of Hoboken $10,000. He's going to say, oh, well, the voters did away with it. But you know what happened half a decade ago when the voters did away with it? We've seen two examples. One in Jersey City where James Solomon, a young, upstart, independent candidate, lost the general election, came in and won in the runoff election. We saw the same thing in Trenton, where my dear friend Reed Gusiora, in a 5-way race, lost and came in second in the general, won in the runoff. Because what happens is, you don't have a bifurcated and a polarized electorate. If people must choose between two candidates, it gives those candidates the chance to bring people together, make arguments and policy that resounds with a majority of the population, and you run on that. We don't need a haphazard election like we had this past fall that only benefits the person that's able to raise the most money and has the most name recognition.
Okay, well, that seems like a pretty coherent argument. Let's see what the voters decide. But with that said, Mike, obviously you had a mouthful to say regarding the ethical issues, I guess we could call it, with the mayor? I mean, is there anything else coming up from the council's point of view to try to, shed some more light on that situation?
It's actually a very timely question, John, because just this morning I submitted a resolution to the city clerk that's going to attempt to recall a contract to a political friend and a lawyer of Ravi Bhalla that is actually using community dollars, taxpayer dollars, to defend Ravi Bhalla's ethics violation. Again, that ethics violation was handed down 2 weeks after the election. It said that Ravi Bhalla failed to disclose the fact that he had a financial agreement and interest in a city vendor's contract. And Ravi voted on a contract of somebody he shared a financial interest with. It took 6 years, 7 years for the local finance board to issue the violation, but sure enough, they issued the violation. And then recently, I've been told—
This is the Perry Bellafiore case?
This is the Michael Cates-Condon case that was raised to the local finance board by Perry Bellafiore.
Yeah, okay.
And when we found out that the taxpayers of Hoboken have paid $10,000 to defend Ravi Bhalla's personal violation, that caught us all off guard. So we're putting forth a resolution to terminate that contract. It's a message to the mayor that we need to be honest, we need to be working together, and we're open to the conversation about why he has decided to instruct his corporation counsel to use tax dollars for a personal matter and refuse to talk to the council about it. It's a very important issue.
And this is for next Wednesday's agenda?
This is on next Wednesday's agenda, yeah.
All right. Now, beyond Hoboken for just a moment, one thing that the Bhalla administration has been really passionate about is this new county agreement with ICE. It's a multi-million-dollar agreement. We've heard numbers anywhere between $22 and $35 million. So it's a pretty hefty contract to detain immigrants that may not have the proper immigration status. So obviously, the Bhalla administration is calling for the rescinding of this contract, and, they're talking about people over politics, and, you follow the argument, I'm sure. So I just wanted to get your perspective on what you think about this county agreement and how they should move forward.
ICE is terrible. ICE sucks. I think that standing up against ICE is what every politician needs to do. But until Ravi Bhalla is willing to work with the county, give the county credit for the county dollars that we get, that the county is here on a daily and hourly basis, shoveling our streets, repairing our streets, providing support in all levels to the city of Hoboken. And until he realizes that that requires money to function and to operate, he'd rather talk out of both sides of his mouth. I stand by the mayor in saying that ICE is a terrible contract to have for any governmental organization. It's exactly where what's wrong with politics today. But unless he's willing to offer up a solution as to how the county is going to make up that $8 million that it's being given by ICE, I think that he's just part of the problem and not the solution. I disagree full-heartedly with politicians that come up with political talking points and not solutions. So I stand by the mayor and his calling out of the issue, but using it for a political advantage is exactly everything that's wrong with politics.
All right. And speaking of county politics, obviously you and Friolda Romano had a contentious relationship during the last election cycle, but it seems like it smoothed a little bit. But with that said, for next year's council race, there's two names that keep being thrown around. One that is the former Councilwoman Terry Castellano, and the other one, as I alluded to, is Stick Romano. So it's a long time before those petitions get pulled and those campaigns, of course, actually hit the ground running. But what's your take on that so far?
I encourage everyone and anyone to submit their names to the voters for election in the first ward. I think and am honored by the tremendous turnout that I've had from the first ward, both in my council race and my recent mayoral race. I stand by the progress, the day-to-day attention that I've given the ward, my accessibility, and I am excited to bring that to the voters in a year's time. I'm not going to bite into the rumor of Terry Castellano or Anthony running. I have respect for both of them, and until such a time that somebody wages, puts their name in to debate me on the issues, that's the time I'll be commenting on the situation. Until then, there's a lot of work we have to be done in the first ward. There's a lot of work we have to do citywide, and I'm not going to be distracted by the rumor mill for an election that's over a year away.
That's fair, but as of today, it's safe to say you will be seeking re-election on the council.
120%. I am energized and eager to continue this conversation, and I am so honored at the chance I've been given by the people of the First Ward. I am honored by the tremendous support citywide I received, and for me to stop the progress right now when we have so much to do would be absurd to even think is a possibility.
All right, Mike, any closing thoughts for your constituents, for Hoboken, for Hudson County before we part ways here?
Well, listen, I think at the end of the day, we need to continue this conversation. I hope that, I hope the mayor's watching. I hope that he has listened to what I've said, because I feel the only time that he responds is when he is put on, on a public, platform and is forced to. I want to have a relationship with the mayor. I want to have him to have a relationship with the entire council, because this city is just far too important, John. The issues that we're facing are just far too instrumental in the long run to not have politicians that are working together. So if Mayor Bhalla is watching, I hope that he'll sit down with me for a beer, and we can work together and not put politics between us.
Right, well, I wouldn't hold your breath on that, but if it happens, you got to definitely let me know.
Certainly will.
All right, Councilman Mike DeFusco, a pleasure. Everyone, of course, always a pleasure to have you join us. Have a fantastic weekend.